Hello to everyone watching. I'm Manahil Ahmed from the Gahr Forum, and my guest today is Mr. Ernie Nishii. Mr. Nishii is on the ABC School Board in charge of Trustee Area 3. He graduated with a BA in Political Science at UC Riverside, and shortly after that entered and graduated at UCLA Law School, passing the California Bar in 1992. He's married to Young Choi, a longtime Cerritos resident, and has a daughter who attends UC Davis. He participated as the chair for the Safe and Modern Schools Measure BB Committee, which enabled the ABC School District to modernize and build safety enhancements for all the children. After the passage of BB, who was elected president of the board, where he instituted many new policies and had the first board equity training. Finally, Mr. Nishii is running for Cerritos City Council. I'm glad to have you here today. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Nishii. All right, so to start off, my first question is, what can you tell students who are listening who don't know about Cerritos City Council and what it does and its significance and impact on students?
So the City Council is the policymaking board for the city of Cerritos. They're the ones who dictate the vision of where the city is going to go. Primarily, I think that this city has been built on amazing schools, right? It is the best, in my opinion, it is the best school district that exists out there. That's why I participated in the school board. And I think that the city has a definite role in ensuring that schools are successful. Schools cannot do it on their own. They need help. You know of all the issues that we've had with COVID. You've had issues regarding students that have some socioeconomic issues and difficulties with the isolation. And I think where the city and the students can work together, I think that would help us do better, make our city richer and stronger and safer. So the role of students in that is to be a participant. My thing when I was on school board is I listened to my daughter. She's the one who could tell me straight, this is how your policies directly affect the kids. She didn't have a filter. You hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people, but the people who are directly affected are critical to getting accurate facts. So I think the young people tell me about the youth center. How's the library center working? They have a team place, right? At the Cerritos Library. Does that affect you? Is it working? Is it too slow? Those are things that young people can tell us about. They are part of what makes this city growing and better. So that's my argument in a nutshell.
That sounds good. So you mentioned your daughter, actually. So I'm assuming that that was part of the reason that motivated you to run for Cerritos City Council. You must have heard her thoughts about improvements, and what else, and more generally, has motivated you to run for Cerritos City Council?
So my daughter is a complainer a little bit. She used to tell me, Dad, I don't have any place to sit for lunch. I have to sit on the ground and it's in the hot sun. And I says, no, come on. We are the best school district. We're the #1. And then I looked at it and she took pictures of her friends sitting on the ground, unsanitary conditions. And I looked at the school and they had a lab from the time that I was in school. And things have changed a little bit since I was in school. And I said, well, okay, this is an easy one. I'm going to vote. And I was on the facilities committee. Let's make a change. Let's do something. And I found out it lost. Something so simple as shade. We treat our workers. They have to have shade. We give them breaks. We give them sanitary conditions. But this group thought, no, that's not a priority. And then I realized, well, that's right. They don't actually have any kids. They don't feel it like I did. And they're all great people. They're all well-meaning. But when I had to come home and tell her, no, you're not going to get any of these facilities, I thought that at that point, I need to make a change. I need to be part of the conversation, and I need to I need to take action. And so that's what we did. We then got the facilities bond to actually do the other things that I was talking about, not just the chairs and the table and the shade, but also science centers to push us into the 21st century. And I think that's
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Whitney High School. Your daughter attended Whitney, right?
You attended Whitney, yes. And Cerritos is also going to get a science center. It's not fancy, but it's one of the first new things that we've done in 23 years. So I'm really proud of that. The media centers we're going to be building at Gahr and Cerritos and Whitney. And each school has their own specific needs, but everybody gets hopefully an equal amount of facilities. So Gahr is getting their solar first, looks like. And so that's one of the things I like to affect these things. And so I'm very proud of the city. We have a very safe city. We have a lot of good things, but I think there's also space for another voice, something different to add on to. So something called sustainability is key in my vocabulary, because we say, oh, it's just Cerritos, it's just a little part. How can we affect the whole world? But we do affect the whole world. Every one of us can affect the whole world. We can't give up on, just say we're just in this, wall ourselves off from everybody else. We have to be part of the greater community, because we if we have a lot of extra electricity that we consume and we add to the greenhouse gases, and we impact by making our world warmer, then guess what? Those redwoods that were out there for eons and eons and eons, they get burned. That's crazy. We can't be destroying our world, and we can play a part in that. So I think in Cerritos, I would add to that part. We need to work on knowing that we're in an environment that's arid. So why do we have a requirement to have a perfectly green lawn? Can't we have some water-wise landscaping? That is something that we haven't talked a lot about, but it's something I think we need. And there's certain parts of the city that have it. So those are some of the things that I think are critical for our city. Safety is also critical. Having neighbors. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, I thought you concluded with that question, but I was just gonna say
one more thing.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. You mentioned safety.
So the Performing Arts Center. So that's a beautiful center, right? It is top notch, but I don't think everybody understands. And we pay about millions of dollars to subsidize that location. Mm-hmm. The problem is that not all of us get to see it. Most of us actually haven't been there in many, many years. And I think there's a couple of things. One is that we pay a lot of money and we don't get to see it. That makes people not happy. Mm-hmm. We can make it so that the seniors can actually go there, because it doesn't cost anything to let somebody in at the last minute, right? So enable the seniors to go see shows that are over there. Maybe the programming could be more reflective of our community. We have a lot of cover bands from the 50s and 60s. But if we appeal to a whole different group, and we have one mariachi, or actually we have two Hispanic type of things, and those things sell out, by the way. What if we had some things that appealed to Chinese besides just Chinese acrobats?
I get what you're saying. So having diverse, like things for people to watch, the different people.
And things for our kids to see, right? Because right now, I mean, it's a center and it's mostly vacant for most of the time. Why can't our kids get to use that center? Wouldn't it be amazing to have kids on a huge stage like that? How would that change their lives to be able to use that? In Orange County at the Performing Arts Center, they have local community troops. How amazing would it be to use our facilities for our local community, for them to have their dreams of being an actor, or maybe the behind the scenes stagecraft, creating the costumes? We're in Hollywood. We can do this. We have a great center. We just need to work on it and use it. So that's one of those things.
So what you're saying is the existing things that are established in Cerritos can be bettered and improved, and the performing arts is one of those places. That sounds great. I'm sure people from my high school would really enjoy that. I think since it has been kind of closed and not available for students, not a lot of people know about it. So yeah, definitely hearing more about it and having different programs and events there would be really cool. My next question is, how can your experiences within the school board help you advocate for Cerritos residents?
So, as a school board member, I work as one of 7.
Right.
And my thinking is, I could just do for the minimum majority of 4. Count to 4 is what they would say in that situation. But I don't think that's the best way to go about getting buy-in from everybody. So when I worked on the bond, I didn't just say, oh, let's get these people who, just one group of people. I reached out to the people who said no the first time around. And the people who said no the first time around, what do they want? Why did they vote no? Let's analyze that and get them on our side. Let's try to encourage them to not oppose it and potentially help us. So my skills on the school board I've learned is to work with people that I might not agree with. The other side is not the other side. We're all part of the same community. We're all working towards the same goals of safety, a better future, and I would never question what their motives are. I just know that we're all working towards the same thing. We just have different ways of doing it. And so my skills on the school board is that we got the bond to pass for the first time in 23 years, the first time it didn't pass. I think we've created a lot of engines to make our schools better, to reflect our community. We had the first day of remembrance, and that's not something that was voted on. It's just something I did. We have an equity officer. So each of our board members build from each other. We don't just say, oh, we're going to do something entirely different. So I had the Equity Institute, and I worked from a staff member who had that. And then Dr. Rios pushed the next step further, and we had an equity officer to really not just say, oh, we need an equity officer. We need somebody who can academically bring everybody to the same level by understanding who they are, right? And we work together. And I think that's one of my strongest things. I, of course, want my way, but if I can't get my way, then I will work with people and see how maybe their way is good too.
Moving on, you've spoken to me about this briefly, but I just want to make it more understood to our student audience. So what can you tell us about the recent ABCFT negotiations with the school board and the significance of the board meeting that's happening tomorrow? I know you mentioned that it's closed session.
Yes. So actually to go back to the good and the bad, right? And so I think there's going to be probably a demonstration out there, and there'll be some news stands and things like that probably. And I welcome that because we have to hear everything. Sometimes it has to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it can get comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's always sitting there and saying all the nice things all the time, then that is a problem because that's not the reality always, right? There are some struggling teachers, and there are discussions out there regarding the inability to have certain resources for the teachers. My wife was a teacher, so I'm intimately aware of the fact that she spent so much money on the teaching thing. I was like, honey, forget about getting paid. Just have them pay for your materials and we'll come out ahead. All the time and love that teachers put into their lives, into their students, that you cannot pay for that, right? What's happening with the current negotiation, unfortunately, what tomorrow is going to be on the agenda, the live agenda, is a closed session item. So closed session means it's confidential. It's a negotiations between the teacher representatives and the district. And so we will get advice from the administrators who have the budgets and the information of what our revenues are, what our expenses are, and everything else like that. And they will give us advice as to what we can afford and what the request was from the other side as to what can happen. And we do that in closed session because those are negotiations. From that, the board will receive recommendations, obviously, and we either follow those recommendations or we don't follow the recommendations. And we provide direction to the negotiators. And then the negotiators then take that information and they go over to the teacher leaders, and then they discuss and see if they can come to an agreement. And it's been going back and forth for a while. Different terms, different issues, different things. I can't disclose, obviously, what's in those discussions, right? I can't disclose if they're high or they're low or anything. Legally, there's something called the Brown Act, and that prohibits me from disclosing what was said in closed session. So if there's, and so if you hear about what's happening in closed session, that's probably illegal, because nobody should know what's in closed session. Now you can surmise from what happens in closed session from your public statements. And so that's what people sometimes do. But always remember that, you know, from the speaker, who is saying what and what, and I think that's key. Look at what the public record is. That's important. And do your comparisons, do the research. Like to like, not different to different, right? Some people will bring out statistics regarding our pay in relation to other districts, and they'll compare this district to this district. Some people will compare us to another district far away. Some people will use the the socioeconomics, and they'll compare that. So all of these things go into the equation as to whether you're on the high side, on the low side, on the medium side. That's about what I can say about that.
Are you sure if you're able to like address this, but do you feel that the teachers' concerns are valid? And where do you see like the negotiations going?
I think that the teachers' concerns are valid, right? So that's the teachers, the negotiations are basically the union or the teacher are representing the teacher's best interests, or what they think is the best interests. And the teachers communicate that to their leaders so that they know exactly what, they don't actually know what's being negotiated, but at least they give them the parameters of that discussion. Sometimes it's an issue of ability. Sometimes it's an issue of there's just so many factors that go into it. It's difficult. You know, you sit in the seat and people criticize you and they say terrible things about you, and sometimes you can't do anything about it. I'm one of 7, and although I like to work as a group and get everybody together, that's not always how it works. I have my ideas and they have their ideas, and we hash it out. And but at the end of the day, we still are working for the best interest of the district, the teachers, the community, the students. We have to work for everyone's best interest, and the teachers are part of that. Yeah, sometimes it's very difficult. It's because I know teachers aren't making a ton of money. I remember seeing that laborer gets $40 an hour, or way back when. It's a while ago since I saw that, and they were getting about the same as a teacher who's gone through 4 years of the BA and 3 years of school beyond that to get their certifications. My wife did that, right? And their pay is not necessarily commensurate with their experience. And it may not be commensurate with what they put into it. That's the thing. Teachers put a lot into it. When they're done with the school day, they're not done. They're grading. They're thinking of what's happening next. The good teachers, there's some teachers that are not great, but for the most part, the reason they're in that profession is not to make millions of dollars. They're in the profession to help people and make a change for the future for all of us. So So I think that since they're doing that, and people are gonna cut and paste whatever I say, that's okay. It's we it's a tough position to be in because I would love to give what I can, right? But there are constraints. And we're given advice and we follow that. Well, we follow or don't follow that advice. And we will live with the decision that we have. And part of our job is to take the criticism. That's what a leader does, right? Not everybody understands everything that's happening, but because we have the information, maybe part of our job is to take the criticism. And that's the tough part because I'm a human. And when I'm criticized, it hurts. It really hurts. There are close friends that have said some terrible things to me. And they forget what my actual actions have been. And that can definitely affect my thinking. But long run, I think you have to take all the situations, all of the facts into consideration. Using the facts and logic that we have, we come to the best decision that we possibly can make for everyone. Was that a wishy-washy answer?
I think it's a controversial topic, and I appreciate you addressing it. And I feel like that was a genuine response. I think for students right now, hearing like the concerns of teachers in our classes, it's also a very important thing for us and parents as well, because it's affecting everyone. The fact that our teachers are adhering to the work to rule thing, which is super valid. It's affecting how much like learning time we're getting, and also like how much we can gain from school. So yeah, it's a very controversial topic, and I hope that the negotiations can well, I hope that
So here's just something you think, Ernie, so are you against work to rules? Like, no, actually, no. Teachers are working, doing these extra things, and we don't always pay everything that they're doing. So, and it comes from their heart that they're doing these things, right? So if it doesn't come from their heart to do these things, no, that shouldn't probably happen, right?
Yeah.
I can't say, please work more than we have a contract for. Nobody does that, right? Only teachers do that. So how can I be mad if teachers just work to contract?
Are there school board members that are criticizing that, or?
I don't know.
Okay, I just felt like.
I mean, I don't know because I'm not allowed to communicate to them about those issues. So the part of the Brown Act is that we cannot talk to more than 3 people, or besides yourself. And even if another person talks to another person, that still counts as part of the majority. So even.
Understood. Fair. All right, I'm done putting you in the hot seat. That concludes that question. Do you have any announcements that you would like students listening in to know about whether it's about city council, the school board, events?
Have an event at Jacob Park Sunday. What day is that?
Sunday, that you said February 27th?
I think so. If that's a Sunday, that's the date. And we'll talk about the issues, sustainability, talk about our environment, talk about seniors, but not the seniors in high school, but the older people in our community that need help. Talk about safety, talk about some mundane things, but also I think some things that will be inspiring. What is your vision to cure the world's problems? Do you want to be part of creating a new world in Cerritos? Can't do it unless you try. can't do it unless you talk about it. You know, maybe we can't do everything, but you can't do it if you don't even take a step out, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
100% of failure is if you don't try. But if you at least take that step and do something, there's a chance that you'll succeed.
All right. On that note, thank you, Mr. Nishii, for your time. I really appreciate having you here, and thank you.
Thank you.